discussion?
Sorry.
The first order of business is approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any changes, additions, subtractions from the agenda?
I move the agenda be approved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. The second item is old business, approval of the minutes for November 17th, 2016. And I've already provided some comments to Rhonda about that. But if you've got any other comments. My comments were basically the titles used. We typically just use Mr. and Mrs. instead of Commissioner, or, you know. But I didn't find any substantial changes in the data presented.
Nor I move that those minutes be approved.
Second.
Move that they be approved as amended.
Yes, sorry.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
How are you?
Well, how are you?
New business, variance 01-17. Vicki, would you introduce that for us?
Talk into it, see if it works.
Yeah, turn it on, I'm sorry. Good evening. I don't know if you can, is it?
I hear it.
No, go back the other way. I think it was maybe on.
It's supposed to be brand new. Feeling, good evening. No.
There's a main switch down below or something, perhaps?
No.
That's not.
Here, you want,
It's one of the mics right
you want one of the techno geezers to look at it? Oh, there you go.
Good evening. This is variance request VA 0117. This is a request to regarding a variance for the following sections: 911-A, continuance of a nonconforming use, 9.0A B.1 related to the sign height, which is a maximum of 25 feet, and section 9.08B3, the maximum sign display area of 100 square feet for a single development. The applicant is Racetrack Petroleum, being represented by Jeffrey Baird. The site address is 123 Commerce Drive, Villa Rica, Georgia 30180. Currently, there is an existing sign on the site. The sign that's on the site is a non-conforming use. They are seeking to alter that use. And again, both of those would, number one, with the alteration, it would still propose to have a sign that conflicts with the existing Unified Development Code, the sign ordinance with the Unified Development Code. Based on staff's evaluation, granting the variance, the first evaluation, whether it would have a substantial conflict, and staff, upon its review, noted that it would, granting a variance would actually not only conflict with the sign, but a lot of the redevelopment that's beginning to happen on that corridor and the new signs that are going in, it certainly would propose conflict with that. As it related to any substantial conflicts with the land, or if there were any undue hardships, there wasn't any notable hardships that were identified, so there were no exceptional conditions creating a hardship. Whether the applicant could derive any reasonable use, the sign could be used in its existing form. So we did not see that we were taking away from the use of the property as it currently exists. Granting the variance will not generally set a precedent. Staff is of the opinion that it would actually be precedent setting, simply because, number one, you're altering a non-conforming use as it stands. In addition to that, it would exceed on two other standards as it relates to the sign ordinance, and that would be the overall sign height as well as the total sign area for a single parcel. Now, granting the variance and whether there would be any kind of detrimental use to the adjacent properties, again, staff was of the opinion all the other properties certainly that have been coming along that corridor have been required to comply and have complied with the ordinance. We did not determine that there was a detriment to the public health, safety, or welfare as it related to the sign that was being proposed, however. But all in all, staff's recommendation was denial based on the applicant's request on all parts.
Anybody have questions for Vicki?
Ms. Coleman, I do have a question.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Ms. Coleman, if they construct the sign they're proposing, but on the existing pole, would that still be grandfathered in?
It would not be. What they're proposing to do is add another pole so they can remove the existing, but that's still altering the sign structure.
Okay. But are they going to have two poles then on that sign? Is that their proposal?
No, it's not two poles, it'd be one pole, but
Okay.
in essence, what they're still proposing to do is modify the existing structure.
So they're going to remove the pole that's existing there eventually for this project, is that?
They're really going to trade them off, if you will, construct one as a support and then remove the existing.
Okay. But if they do not build the second one and they keep the existing only and just do the other changes to the sign as far as colors and what it says and so forth and what it displays, would that still be grandfathered in?
If I'm understanding you correctly, to leave the sign structure exactly as it is, just modify the sign, they have to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Under 911A, changing the face of the sign is not deemed a change prohibited.
Right, and that's what
So the problem is the pole. When you add the pole in, it becomes a modification of the entire sign.
the sign structure, right.
Mr. Chairman, I don't, in reading the package and hearing Mr. Coleman's comments, it seemed like the code would only allow a sign of a total of 100 square feet. Is that correct?
Right, for the sign, face, or the display area, a maximum of 100 square feet.
And that, I mean, roughly, if you just want to be simplistic about it, that's 10 by 10. Roughly.
Yeah, roughly.
10 by 10, which for a gas station to me or other retail businesses there seems, I mean, I know mine is not the reason why, and smarter minds than mine conceived and passed that ordinance, but whew, for a commercial area and gasoline stations especially, that seems to be very small. You have to be right up on it to be able to see it and read what it said.
Now, my is separate from the
Right. This gasoline station.
for the gas. It's really not. It's not really that small for what would be a single development. It's actually pretty common.
All right.
So in this case, the 100 square feet is racetrack, and then the proposed pricing.
Correct. And, I mean, you're thinking 10 by 10, but technically it could be 5 by 20. So there's multiple configurations, and a lot of times it's usually a little bit narrower, but it may certainly be taller. But coming from, I would certainly say from where they currently are, which is what is the equivalent of a billboard, it's...
There's no issue with it being a motion sign, since the pricing will change periodically.
Right, because it doesn't change that frequently.
Ms. Coleman, I did have one more question if you guys were. I did note in the letter of intent submitted by the applicant that there was some mention of the new sign being a few more feet off of the right-of-way. Again, if they build the sign they want but keep it on the existing pole, would that cause, I cannot recall from our ordinance, but I've read previous ordinances where signage and stuff cannot be within 10 feet of right-of-way. Is that an issue here? Or would they encroach on the right-of-way?
Again, it's a non-conforming structure. That's really the best way to answer that. So when you're non-conforming, you're not meeting the standards of the code as it's currently set forth. If you don't mind, it may be a little bit helpful to at least to have the applicant come up, and then you may be able to
as well. I did want to get your opinion on it.
Sure, sure.
Ms. Coleman.
Okay. Ms. Beard?
Chairman Young, members of the board, Jeffrey Baird, Racetrack Petroleum, reside at 470 Ponderosa Drive, Athens, Georgia. To start off, one of the main reasons why we cannot reface the sign as it stands today is because when we constructed the sign, there was a 90 mile per hour wind load. Now the state of Georgia has upgraded to 115 miles an hour. So to upgrade that sign at all means that it's no longer in conformance with the state laws. So that is the main reason for reinserting that main pole in the center of the sign. You're correct. If we could, we would go in, reface the sign, add our new logo, add our new Swirl World sign, and do our pricing. But due to the fact that we cannot have an engineer sign off on a site, or a sign that was done at 90 miles per hour versus 115, that's our main struggle right now. The fact that the sign would be moved further away from the right-of-way, it would be the pole that would be moved further away from the right-of-way. The sign, and as you see, it is a retrofit, so we're not actually taking the sign cabinet off and replacing the sign. As I was saying, we could reface the sign as is today, but because of the wind load changes in the state of Georgia and the requirements from the engineer, we cannot get a signed and sealed plan to do that. As most of you are well aware, we've gone in, we've retrofitted this building, we've completely gutted it, we've upgraded the canopy, brought in all new equipment, all new sewer, all new water, all new electrical. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep that brand standard. We're trying to get our new logo up on the billboard. And as of today, LED pricing has become the standard with gas stations and convenience stores. It allows us to remove the scaffolding, allows us to remove the ladder. Nobody's having to climb up and do price changes 2 times a day. So it's got a safety factor there for our employees. The safety factor also brought into account with the new pole would mean that we're now meeting the state requirements for the wind load for a structure of this size. And another thing with the LED, it's easier recognizable with the eye. And if you've seen the sign that's out there today, we'll be getting rid of the yellow flip book posters. You won't have that, and I don't know why we did that back in the day other than it was just the norm, but we get that big ugly yellow out of there. I heard mention of the billboard. There is a billboard that's actually on the other side of Chick-fil-A. It is a recognized, permitted billboard. and it's 800 square feet on each side with LED projecting out. So I don't think we would detract very much at all, because these LEDs, they don't flash, they don't move. We change our price maybe once a day, twice if it's something really crazy is happening in the market. So the structure, like we were talking about, will be pushed away if the variance is granted, and the pole would move further away from the right-of-way, and that would be the, I guess, the betterment of that sign for Villa Rica. Moving it away from the right-of-way line, getting it closer to our property line. It would be the exact same sign, the exact same area, with the exact same display. I will say that the new sign, if you do look at the printout that you have in front of you, it's not that brown color. You'll have to excuse our computer graphics. You can only get colors so close. So it will be the darker bronze that you see on the existing pole. So all of that sign will have a lot of dark space. You won't have a big, bright, shining sign out there. The only thing you'll actually have shining are going to be those LEDs showing the price. We've done this now in Fort Oglethorpe, Cartersville, where we take down that existing sign and put up, or I guess not take down, but decommission the interior components of that sign, put in LED, and go ahead and put in our new logo. We're also doing that in Athens, Georgia as well, and it's just really to maintain that brand standard. I would like to remind the board that this is going to be the same sign in the same location that it stands today. If the variance is not granted, it's going to be a decision of racetracks of whether to go forward with a new sign or not. We've got two sites where they're leaving the existing sign just because of visibility, and especially on this site where we have Commerce Drive that separates you from the main highway out front. That is probably going to weigh heavily on their decision on whether or not to, if the variance is not granted, to just leave that existing sign as is. I've been really proud of a lot of my remodels. I've done 45 in the state of Georgia right now, and they have all been bright shining stars, and takes that old split face block racetrack up to a higher standard. And I don't know if anyone has visited the new store, but I definitely recommend you go and see exactly where we're taking our standards.
Questions for Mr. Beard?
If you do not use this sign or put the sign, get another sign, how would this affect your bottom line figure? Would it have anything to do with that?
If we did not.
If the sign stayed as it was, or if you eject a new sign, would this have anything to do with your bottom line figure?
As far as the sign that we're proposing versus the current sign that's there today,
Yes.
Other than an aesthetic point of view, you still have the same view. We would have less of a presence as far as today you only have two prices visible. You've got regular and diesel. The new sign proposes regular, diesel, and premium. So you've got the three options on the new sign versus the two that are there today. You also have the Swirl World, which is a brand of yogurt. We're now the largest yogurt producers in the country. Once we started implementing yogurt 4 years ago. So that is another addition that would be on this sign of the same size. So you do have a reduction in those two huge pricers down to one large pricer, two small pricers, and a small Swirl World advertisement. So as far as affecting our bottom line of leaving the existing sign versus the proposed new sign, I would say that yes, it would. I cannot give you a figure on that just because we would be advertising less today than we would if we had the new sign. And if you do look, and if you look at our existing sign, it's a flat face. You've got the two big books, the sign next to it, and the new proposed sign. It's much cleaner. It's got a lot more dead space in it, so you don't have that big bright yellow. And that's one thing that I've been trying to get out of my new bright shining stations.
Is there a variance process through the state of Georgia for the wind load capacity if you keep the existing pole?
Well, it is grandfathered in. So therefore, we are conforming. It is just a non-conforming use, just like we are today with Villa Rica.
So if you change the sign box, the state of Georgia recognizes that as a new sign?
If we change the sign structure, which right now, we'll keep the same cabinet. and we'd insert a new pole, and everything inside that cabinet would be replaced. The cabinet will be painted dark bronze, powder coated, and it looked like it's brand new, but it's the same one we've had up there for 15 years.
Changing the faces, with Georgia, changing the faces means that you're no longer grandfathered for wind speed?
No, it's the exact same with Villa Rica. As long as you keep the structure the same, then you're grandfathered in, because it is still held to the standards as it was the day that it was put up.
So you could use the existing pole and change the sign cabinet to the new design, and you would be grandfathered in under state of Georgia regulations. I assume there's a GDOT regulation.
Well, we won't have an engineer sign off on the new cabinet, because at that point, it's a new sign to them. So you literally cannot have an engineer sign off on that due to the fact that it is
internal
yes,
policy.
it's the same sign, but at that point in time, it's the foundation that really matters. The foundation on this is 10.5 feet deep for 115 miles an hour. They require a 13.5 foot deep foundation. So we're set right there. What we can do is come in underneath, drill that foundation, set a new pole, and then it will be conforming to State of Georgia 115 and obviously Villa Rica's code as well.
Does Racetrack feel that Georgia's change in their requirements, did that create a hardship for you?
Well, it definitely does, yes, because we're not able to, I'm having to go through this on every single one of my signs. Union City right now, I have a sign foundation that is 10.5 feet deep, and we are going in, it's a flag mounted, and we're having to put in a new pole just like we are today here. So we're having to go in, dig that foundation out, pour a new foundation. It's just that this sign is still allowed under Union City's codes. The only difference is Villa Rica does not allow this sign size anymore.
Your company policy is to, for public safety reasons, is to come, when you do work on a sign, is to come with all the new standards issued by the state.
Definitely, and one of those issues is the fact that we cannot have any type of engineer sign and seal it due to the fact that it is not meeting the standards of the state at this time.
Are there other alterations you could do to the sign besides changing the pole to increase the wind, the wind speed resistance to it?
Not without changing the structure, which would then make it a non-conforming sign that is now not allowed, because we would be changing the structure.
Smaller cabinet, for instance, wouldn't do that.
Well, even the smaller cabinet would not meet the city of Villa Rica's standards. It'd be up on that pole, and what we're trying to go back right now with is a 1-to-1.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Comments among ourselves?
I have one question for staff, if possible. Ms. Coleman, could they permit this sign, their proposed sign, as a billboard?
It's not in a corridor.
That's right.
That allows for that. I was trying to pull the code up as,
Billboards, new billboards are only in the interstate corridor, not in the 61 corridor.
right.
That's correct. I recall that now. Thank you.
But there is a billboard down there,
But those are grandfathered.
but it's grandfathered in.
Right.
So, but still, it's all part of the environment there
Yeah.
today.
I don't have anything further, Chair.
Looking at the requirements that, in order to grant the variance, there's hardship or practical difficulties, or both. It appears to me that Racetrack is trying to, in the interest of public safety, make sure that they comply with any new and upgraded requirements of the state. And their internal policy doesn't allow them to circumvent those new state requirements. Is that a valid hardship?
Well, if the existing structure is only designed for a 15-mile-an-hour wind.
90.
115, or 90.
No,
90.
I thought the current one is
90, yeah.
90?
90,
Oh, and so we're going to go to 115?
right.
Okay. Well, that's still in the public's interest
And increasing a setback from 61 is in the public's interest?
You know, to me, that's negligible. You're not talking about a distance of more than 12 feet, and that's just for the pole. I mean, the sign's going to occupy roughly the same space in the sky that it does now. It's just they're going to relocate the pole to the center of the sign rather than being off to one end. So, yeah, I don't think that's material, personally.
The alternative would be that they would build a 25-foot sign with a 100-foot face, and they would be in compliance with the rest of that corridor on 61, and they would be in compliance with the current code. Or they keep their existing sign. That's what I see it. And I think it's in the public's best interest to have beautification, so I would like to see a new sign there at 25 feet tall and 100-foot face. That would be consistent with the new Baskin-Robbins and Dunkin' Donuts, for example. Right there.
Any other discussion?
No.
The applicant may have want to make a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to...
Okay.
I just want to make it clear that we're not confirming that if this variance is denied, that we would go with the new sign. I just want to make sure that is clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, our decision is not necessarily final. Both this staff and the respondent can appeal the decision depending on who it went against to the city council. So, you know, and even after the city council rules, you can appeal to the court. So, you know, our decision is not final, but I'm sure if there's an appeal to the city council, that they would take our decision in consideration. Do I hear a motion?
Move to deny the application.
Second.
Is a second? All in favor? Thomas?
No, I would vote against that motion.
Okay, you're not in favor of the motion?
No.
Okay. 3-1. Staff comments? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Excuse me, one brief comment.
Sure.
Thursday, 2 days from now, there is a call meeting of the city council at 3 p.m. Is that here?
A work session?
And the only item on the agenda that I know of is the existence of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I just thought I would mention that to the group in case anyone felt inclined to attend.
Yeah, but at a work session, they don't typically have public comment, so.
Can we listen?
Yes?
Thank you, Thomas, for letting me know that.
So what?
Thank you for letting me know that, or letting us know that.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I said, Mr. Bennett, you do have the option to appeal the decision to the city council. Yes,
Our demise is
nice to get back together.
Oh, yes, it seems like, I don't know.
same here.